Let's talk about typical development and how TMR supports the motor learning philosophy, looking for how a typically developing child develops motor control and comparing that to how we target the motor control part of a TMR session, because every TMR session has three components: release, organize, activate. Let's first look at a typically developing child. They may not have a restriction in mobility, but they have a preference in mobility, just as you would if you got on a surfboard or you were going to push away a heavy object. You would prefer to have your sternum forward with one foot forward and one back. And it may vary. Some of you want to your left foot forward and your right foot back, which would be a rotation of the sternum to the left. And since most babies go that way, we'll use that as the example for typical development. So we have this newborn child, and they are just discovering they're on the planet. And they're being fed with lots of touch and sensation. Slowly they discover that they have hands, and the hands are going in the mouth. And now I feel I have hands, I feel I have arms. And the feeling is the first step. It's feeling, exploring, using. First, they have to feel and know that they have the body awareness, that they have those body parts to use. The child is perhaps on their side, and they discover that they can roll a little bit this way, more so than rolling this way. Why is that? Because they have a little bit more mobility. Everybody has a preference in their mobility. Not necessarily a problem, but everybody has a preference. If you lie down on the floor and you try to reach across your body to roll one way and the other, you will see that one comes more naturally. It is your strength. It is more comfortable. And so if I was to take this child, they have a more fluid ability for me to passively rotate them this way, then this way. There's maybe a little hesitancy to go this way. So their strength is to go this way. So naturally, and as they're here, and you offer them perhaps a stuffed animal, they will start feeling their body hugging the animal. Then they will start feeling that I can move this way, that I discover that they're moving this way. And then they go from the feeling phase to the exploring. And you feel the muscles kick in as they start doing things. As you have the child on their side, perhaps gravity assists and assists them to roll over and hug the stuffed animal. So a little bit of gravity assist, and then gradually they go from assisted, which is gravity assist is an active assist, to active, so that they're back here, and you see them starting to roll over here. Okay, and then gradually they go from active to their active resist, that they're on their back and using gravity resist to come over. So they're discovering and developing graded control. You always have to have the motivating factor, a reason to go there. We can't have them overwhelmed with or interference where they're trying to pull up and they don't have the control to do that. The family supports them in a way that they can become successful. The parents intuitively do that, supporting the child so they're successful in a range of control. And then ultimately they go from feel it to discover it to use it. And they start using that same motion functionally, perhaps to reach and do an open chain reach. At the same time, all this effort and discovery to roll one way with their uppers is reinforcing the other side with cross-training. And all of the motions and things that the parents are putting the child in different positions when they're typically developing, the child is simultaneously feeling and exploring what they can do this way, but they're just using it that way. We give them the opportunity to feel and explore. Now, let's take the child with a delay. They do not have the ability to feel and explore here, or perhaps the other way, because they have not gone through those steps because may have a restriction. The first step of the TMR is to do the release, and we identify where their release is needed using the modified counter-strain process, and determine that this child needs to go to the left to do the release. How do we build the motor learning in at the same time? Initially, maybe a little infant, we're holding them into their position of ease. But then gradually, as soon as we can, we want them to be able to feel and engage. And maybe maybe this child has severe motoric challenges. And so when we put them this way and we give them something that's enticing and we facilitate them going into their direction of ease, they are simultaneously learning to self-treat. They may only have trace control here and just go a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, but they are initially feeling the sensation of the movement. And we're building on what they know, building on their little piece of strength. As we go further and further, over and over again, providing the sensory input, we are getting the release. And now at the end of that session, perhaps initially, the child could raise this, had the mobility, the range to get this scapula way off the floor, and this one is only coming up an inch. But now we've done some release, and now this one has the range to come 3 inches. Those new 2 inches are the discovery zone. We do not wait to have the child figure out that I can go this way, like your typically developing child. We are crafting their environment with precise, targeted facilitation to go the hard way, to discover the new range, but not to exceed the 3-inch range, because then we might be stretching them. But we need to discover this discovery zone of going from 1 inch off the floor to 3 inches off the floor. And so after we do the release and the organize, we provide them with a matching sensory experience so they can feel the same thing, and discover slowly that they can not only feel it, but explore it. Get little flickers of exploration. We're not asking them to use it yet to learn to roll over. But we want to challenge the easy side to use it as much as they can without the interference of too much. So it's graded. In subsequent visits, perhaps the child can come over halfway and roll over here. And they now have gone from feeling it and to exploring a new range, and now using it and lifting against gravity, active, active, active. And so at the same time, they're building on their function, on their ability to transition from supine to prone. Likewise, over the course of those weeks of gaining the range of motion, the child now might be able to get this shoulder blade 5 inches off the floor. And so we are continually helping them develop the mapping with feeling the new range from the 3 inches to the 5 inches, precisely targeted, feeling, exploring, and ultimately using. And then the bonus is when we get to where the child can do it really intensely actively, we might actually resist what they're doing to load it, because the loading of one side provides cross education to the other side and further facilitates the hard side. And so it's all based on the principles of neuroplasticity described by Jeffrey Klein. We have precisely targeted facilitation that challenges, motivates, is targeted so that it doesn't have any interference. And we are repetition in something that they can do in their daily routines and be successful. The salience, the control, it's all in there. Motor learning, TMR, functional transitions all go hand in hand.